Welcome to the New York City Transit Committee meeting anyway, sorry, I heard an echo. Let's get started with the safety announcements.
Your safety is of the foremost importance to the MTA. Therefore, we ask that you listen and adhere to the following instructions. If you witness an emergency, notify emergency personnel in the room and call 911 immediately. Please follow any audible instructions provided through the public address system or visually on screens in the event of an emergency. If an alarm sounds, wait for a public address announcement and follow instructions. If told to go to another floor or to evacuate the building, leave all unessential items behind and use stairwell A just across the main hallway or stairwell B down the hallway past the elevators. If you have a mobility disability or cannot self-evacuate, please proceed to stairwell D or E for assistance by MTA staff or emergency personnel. An automated external defibrillator, AED, for use by trained personnel is in the main hallway just past the elevators. If you need assistance during an evacuation, please tell an MTA staff member or emergency personnel. Thank you and have a safe day.
Thank you. We just need a couple of minutes because we weren't ready with our public speakers, so hold on, please.
Good morning, everyone. Apologies for the delay. We are getting ready to start with the public comment session. We have 21 members of the public registered to speak today. As a reminder, we ask that all public speakers adhere to MTA's rules of conduct and decorum, including speaking on topic. I would also like to remind our public speakers that in the interest of time and fairness to all speakers, we limit everyone to 2 minutes. In the event we exceed 30 minutes of public comment, we will transition to a separate live recording session. Recorded comments will be distributed to the MTA board and posted to our board meeting webpage and YouTube channel. Please be aware that there will be a warning beep here to remind you that you have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. The first speaker will be Michael Ring, followed by Christopher Greif.
Good morning. My name is Michael Ring. If anyone needs a verbal description of my appearance, I'm a 62-year-old white guy. I'm wearing a hoodie that says I have Guillain-Barré syndrome. We can talk about that later if anyone wants to. But I'm here to talk about taxi reimbursement authorization, a kind of useful but very nuanced part of Access-a-Ride, where you could arrange your own transportation and get paid back. You can do that if you're traveling to a transit hub, like an airport, when there's just no flexibility, or if your day goes sideways and you can't get home, or if your ride home has a problem, you can book your own transportation. It's very useful. I have to admit, I have the privilege of being able to lay out the money, but I just looked this morning and I'm owed money from October 11th. That's 163 days ago. I double-checked to see if that was some sort of outlier, maybe a mistake, but I'm owed money from other days in October. That's a long time to lay out money. It discourages people who don't have the privilege I have to be able to lay it out to travel. It's an important program, And I happen to be chair of the Accessible Transit Advisory Committee, so I get a little insight about how things are going. And for months, I've been told it's going to get better, it's going to get better. The reimbursement process has changed a little. The website changed. It got a little bit more complicated, but that's not the end of the world. But it hasn't gotten better. People aren't going home on Access-a-Ride because the vehicle can be late, and then they're standing out in the rain. They don't want to send in the reimbursement because it takes 163 days right now to get paid back. You guys are all executives. You probably lay out money often for travel expenses. If you had to wait 163 days, you might have a problem laying out the money for travel expenses. It's just a long time. And then by the time you get paid back, if it's not the right amount, you're kind of like, I don't know where I was going. I don't know what this receipt was for.
Thank you for your remarks.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Chris Greif, followed by Iris Kelly.
Sorry. Good morning, everyone. I'm Christopher D. Greif, ADA President of the Transportation Group. One thing I want to do, wish all the young ladies happy Women's Day to all the women, because a lot of people, and I do see a lot of them are here today because they've been working really hard, and I do want to thank every one of them. If I say everyone's name, the time will be out. Second, to all the MTA, and I want to say, because I want to make sure they heard me this, from the accessibility team, to the Access-a-Ride team, to buses and trains, and every employee, happy Appreciation Day. Yes, we understand there's issues, but the issues could be fixed when we all work together. And I want to appreciate every MTA employee because we have got things accomplished from 2019. If we look at 2019 till now, we got things done, but it takes time to fix. We can't fix an elevator like you think it's a magic trick of a magic thing. It has to be safety. We have to follow the rules of safety and follow it really good to the top. Accessibility is a part of us that we have to continue advocating, not yelling, not fighting, and especially not swearing at people. We have to work together to move forward. As our former colleague, let her rest in peace, because her anniversary was just passed, Edith Pettit says, get over it. So let's get over it and let's move forward. And how can we work together with everyone? So to our NYPD, thank you. And I do appreciate our NYPD because there are things that are getting done and there's ways of getting things fixed. And continue advocating to that. So to everyone, thank you and happy Appreciation Day to all. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Iris Kelly, followed by Elizabeth Abraham.
Yes, I want to speak about on demand. There should be an amount of for the rides. There should be an amount of rides, whether the X amount of money is, and not go by the month, but go by what the rides are they have each month. Because in fact, every time each month, you don't know how many you need that many, more or less. For instance, I'll give you an example. You get $40 for a certain amount of extra rides. When you get down to your next to last ride, you should be able to just replenish it. It'd be so much easier accommodating everything, keeping trackability. And it'd be so much easier for everybody because everything's different. You know, one day I could be like having problems leaving the office because we're leaving early. I use it for that. Or I have to go with some friends and be able to do some last minute for people, their last minute, or be able to do things. And it would be so much easier keeping track of everything. And I think it would be more accessible for everybody instead of being stuck with I'd have to use a certain amount every month. It'd be great. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Elizabeth Abraham, followed by Jean Ryan.
Okay. I get a little bit of anxiety here because I'm being rushed, but I'm trying to do this quickly. First of all, a few months ago, I proposed a proposal for there would be interpretation for the drivers because it could be, you know, annoyance. But also later on, Access-a-Ride also provided a new thing where you could have information in the computer in different languages for the drivers. And they gave a good example. It's going to be announced, I think, pretty soon with CTG. And CTG is going to give a sample of interpretation, which is wonderful. And of course, the only thing, my recommendation is this, that I hope it includes the between streets, because sometimes if a person's going to a particular location, I think they should put the between streets, could be helpful. But I applaud in terms of that, and the proposal that I put, people learn things different ways. So what I presented, maybe afterward, maybe it could add a different way of giving attention to the drivers, but also maybe to the clients of Accessoride that need to have a better socialization and coming to the right things in the buses. Something I also like to say quickly is I love Accessoride. I didn't want to say that because, it's kind of but I love Accessoride. Why? Everything you're doing is excellent. Everything's on time. You're on top of it. You make things better for me and for others. Even though we'll stay on top of you and stuff like that, but that's part of love. You know what I mean? And appreciation. On time.
The next speaker is Jean Ryan, followed by Ian Matthews.
Wait a minute. Hi, I'm Jean Ryan, President of Disabled in Action of Metropolitan New York. A relatively small number of people who have Accessoride have the privilege of being in the on-demand pilot program. It's been life-changing for some, but not everyone. It allows people in the program to travel without booking a trip 1 or 2 days in advance. It allows us to do things spontaneously, to stay until a concert or a meeting or a doctor appointment or staying late at work is done, then get a ride and not have to leave before an event is done. This is life-changing for people who cannot otherwise get around, especially for people who live in the outer boroughs. But AAR and the on-demand program is a class-based program. When AAR wanted to expand the program to more people a few years ago, many people opted not to be in the program. Why? Some people do not want to try a new thing. They are comfortable with what they know. Some people do not have smartphones or have one and cannot use it because of hand dexterity or difficulty in learning to use apps. You also need a credit card. Many people cannot afford to be in the on-demand program, especially if they live in an outer borough. The base cost is $4 a trip instead of $3 a trip, but there are also other costs. Tipping is one. It's not required to tip, but New York is a tipping town, and we are asked to tip, not required, but asked every time. The MTA covers up to $60 per trip, excluding the $4 in the tip. Extra costs are also charge fees in fixed bridge and tunnel tolls, traffic, things like that, sometimes surge costs. If you live on a low fixed income, like $850 a month, you cannot afford to spend extra money on transportation.
The next speaker, thank you for your remark. The
Thank
next
you.
speaker is Ian Matthews, followed by Michael Cohen.
Good morning. My name is Ian Matthews, and I want to talk about something that because on Thursday you had a big delay on the B&D line in the Bronx because of a train with mechanical issues that caused the brakes to be activated. Now, here's the thing: I was at Bedford and I saw that train, and there was something wrong with it because I could smell something burning. Yet the train left Bedford like it was allowed to. Like, come on, you should have taken the train out of service because then a bigger delay wouldn't have been caused like that. Another thing I'm also noticing: why aren't the police walking back and forth on the platform? Like they should be like walking back and forth, not just standing in the middle, because more suspicious stuff happens towards the front and the rear of the train. So that's something else to be considered. Also, please make sure the Omni readers on the buses are working. I was on 2 buses this weekend and both Omni readers weren't working. So that's something else to be looked at. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
The next speaker is Michael Cohen, followed by Braden Tom.
Michael Cohen, and I'm speaking on my own behalf about the area a few blocks north and a few blocks south of the Queensboro Bridge. if you take the M15 bus, you'll notice that there's a very big traffic jam there, often during peak hours. Around that time, a lot, where you have multiple entrances and exits to the Queensboro Bridge, as well as the FDR Drive. And what happens is that sometimes the big trucks get off and they block the intersection, and they're trying to get on and off the bridge, and you're on the bus and you're trying to get through the intersection to go, for example, between 68th and 59th Street. And there's often traffic in the way, and it's hard for the bus to get through the intersection. And I think there needs to be something to be done to prioritize that bus so that the speeds can be faster on the M15, and that it would be possible to have faster service on the route and to avoid being delayed by traffic getting on and off the bridge. And I think it's also important that all-door boarding be expanded and that more routes have it. And I think it'd be great to have countdown clocks at more of the stops as well. The app is great, but it would also be great to have more countdown clocks so that you can see when the bus is coming right at the stop.
The next speaker is Braden Tom, followed by Murray Bowden.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Braden Tom, and I'm a senior at Telecom High School in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. I'm here today because I'm working on a quality of life project that is focused around bus efficiency and equity. And I wanted to give a little bit perspective of like what I recommend. So I found throughout my research that bus efficiency and equity was really hurt by a lack of cooperation between the government and government agencies and communities. So what I was recommending was that there needs to be a better way for communities to advocate for better bus improvements. Oh, I should have also mentioned too, I'm a Staten Island resident, so going to Brooklyn is kind of a rough thing, but you know, I try. And I think that if we had a feature on the MTA app that can allow people to easily recommend, let's say, bus improvements or give feedback on how their service went that day, I do believe that people can better advocate for bus lanes and stuff in their community. And I think through making advocacy way more accessible to all, because like even today, I did have to skip school to get here. So, oh, don't tell. But, even today, this is not an accessible community meeting. People have work, people have school. So it's very important, I think, to be more accessible to more New Yorkers. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
The next speaker is Murray Bowden, followed by Jesse Figueroa.
Hi, I'm Murray Bowden. You've ordered some new commuter buses, which are over-the-road standard commuter buses. The new hybrid buses that I see around Westchester County, where are roll-on and roll-off. Those commuter buses have been used for years and years, but they're for over-the-road. Nobody puts luggage in them anymore, and everybody has to climb up the stairs. So sell them, pay the penalty, and order the same hybrid buses that I see here in Westchester County. The other thing is road markings. The markings on the roads are designed in the 1950s and never upgraded. Yellow should be on the left, white on the right, where the snowplow goes, and not done with a protractor they did before. Arrows should point up, and the sign should be not over the lanes, but the same as the one on the side. The Kosciuszko Bridge has the correct arrows going up, but they're over 4 lanes of traffic. Doesn't have to be, we can count. Nobody puts luggage on underneath a bus anymore. I'll be 93 in June, and I have dementia, and I make mistakes, and I apologize for them. Learning your new system today has been a challenge, but here I am on that. It's time to recognize that this is 2026 and not 1950. make the signs that are over the lanes consistent with the sign that is on the side. I want to thank all of the people that at the MTA who have taught me over the years and helped me get to the place we are. It's been appreciated, and it's been a pleasure to work with you all. Thank you.
The next speaker will be Jesse Figueroa, followed by Alita Dupree.
I'm back. 15 long months. Thank you. Doctors medically cleared me physically, mentally. My name is Jesse Figueroa, U.S. Army veteran and accessibility transportation advocate. I'd like to acknowledge New York City Transit's continued progress in service, reliability, and accessibility. I must raise a critical concern regarding the Brooklyn Bus Network redesign. The proposed elimination of the B15 segment between Brookdale Hospital and JFK Airport. This corridor is essential for hospital staff, airport workers, and East Brooklyn residents who rely on a direct, affordable connection. I kindly urge this committee to preserve this vital segment and ensure the redesign strengthens, not reduces mobility for the communities that depend on it. I'm also looking forward to this Thursday's Mets home opener at Willets Point and also next Friday at Yankee Stadium. Thank you.
The next speaker is Alita Dupree, followed by David Kupferberg.
Thank you. Good morning to the chair. Alita Dupree, for the record, she and her with Team Folds representing Skirt Folds. Wish I could be with you in person. It's been a while. And I like in-person meetings, especially I just turned 60 and I like sharing of that in meetings. How do we go forward with our subway? And I'm sure in Capitol, I'm going to talk about the new subway cars. I'm interested in the work of fare gates. Recently, I was back in the Bay Area and I used BART, which has put new fare gates in all 50 of their stations, and they're working fine, both with the Clipper system and with open payment. They're basically achieving their stated objectives, so I think we should look at the design that BART is using. We also have to remember that BART has the unique distinction of being the people's system. I ask that we really stand strong in electrification. There's some areas where confidence seems to be waning and eroding. I ask that we not fall into that. Electric vehicle technology is improving, and we can't think of ourselves being frozen in time because it's not frozen. When we invest in electric vehicles, it's going to create the infrastructure and demand for them. I rode the electric buses in Manhattan, and they were fine. I mean, they weren't perfect. One of them we had to take out of service, but that happens with diesel buses too. So we have to do that, buy those 5,000 odd electric buses. And how do we build a renewable energy powered subway? We should go out and get that energy for it. I think I would enjoy the subway more if it ran on renewable energy, just like I have solar energy in my home. I hope to see you again soon. Thank you.
The next speaker is David Kupferberg, followed by Benji Ross.
Good morning. My name is David Kupferberg, member Passengers United. As part of the Brooklyn Bus Network redesign, the B13's northern segment is proposed to no longer meander through Fresh Pond, but streamline via Ridgewood. The MTA so far refuses to maintain coverage for Fresh Pond. The service planners could counter that such concerns were addressed as part of the Queens Bus Network redesign. That's false. Except for the B62 Brooklyn bus routes that partially operate in Queens were not addressed. The creation of service gaps will not be tolerated, and route paths, regardless of the borough, must be adjusted accordingly. Also, the MTA is proposing to cut overnight B25 service to operate between Fulton Street, Franklin Avenue, and Broadway Junction, and permanently reroute the B26 off Putnam Avenue. As that the B25 has high ridership overnight, to cut the B25 would be an injustice. B25 overnight service should continue to operate between Dumbo and East New York, whereas the B26's route path should be unchanged. The B57 currently operates between Red Hook in Brooklyn and Maspeth in Queens via downtown Brooklyn. The Red Hook segment is proposed to become its own route, the B27. It would replace the B62 north of downtown Brooklyn to Vinegar Hill, except overnight when the B62 would continue to operate via the neighborhood. The B27 should instead operate via the Manhattan Bridge to City Hall. Doing this would cut travel times in half. The service planners could counter that there was a route that operated via the Manhattan Bridge until June 2010, the B51. It had poor ridership because the B51 was infrequent, forced virtually all riders to transfer, and most of all, the route existed before gentrification and congestion pricing. It's time to give riders better interborough travel. To have the B27 operate between Red Hook and City Hall would be a necessary first step. Thank you.
The next speaker is Benji Ross, followed by Andy Pollock.
Good morning, Transit Committee. My name is Benji Ross, an intern at the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA, PCAC. Last week, we released an encouraging report on the changing commuting patterns on the subway post-congestion pricing. Using travel data from the MTA's Open Data Program, we found that subway ridership grew by 7.7% in 2025, double the 3.7% growth seen in 2024, showing a strong bounce back a year after slowing post-pandemic growth. The report found that system-wide discretionary rides on the weekends grew by 9.4%, showing that weekend ridership growth continued to outpace weekday ridership, especially outside Manhattan. We identified 39 stations that saw ridership grow by more than 20% in 2025, and that is something to celebrate. Additionally, the Bedford L station saw over 500,000 more rides on the weekends in 2025, more than any other station in the system. The data is clear. Congestion pricing is working. We hope the agency will continue to support the ever-increasing number of frequent riders through enhanced fare incentives and programs that continue to make transit the most affordable way to get around our city and region. Also of note, PCAC testified last week at City Council budget hearings about the long overdue expansion of the Fair Fares program and the need for NYC DOT to meet the legal mandates of the Streets Plan and to make it easier for the MTA to achieve faster and more reliable bus service. PCAC is also strongly opposed any efforts to dismantle or create unworkable loopholes in the MTA's ACE program and released a memo against one such effort to the state legislature last week. We believe ACE is essential as it increases bus speeds by 5% and reduces collisions by 20%. Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Andy Pollock, followed by John Padula.
Good morning. This is Andy Pollock from Passengers United. So before I get into the main reason why I wanted to talk to you all today, Passengers United today, some of our members are up in Albany speaking to members of the state Senate and the Assembly to urge for more mass transit funding, including to our wonderful MTA, which, again, reminder, the state budget is due a week from this Wednesday, April 1st. So let's hope we actually have an on-time budget for the first time in who knows how long. So the reason why I am here to speak to you all today is about serious transit crime issues in the Bronx. So on the BD line on February 10th, a man was shot and killed on the platform. And then back on March 18th, a man was just minding his own business at the Prospect Avenue station on the 2 and the 5 line, and he was stabbed just because somebody was asking him for an OmniTap to get into the system. And then I want to get into the real serious problem at Tremont Avenue. There are people doing drugs at that station. People are shooting needles, and there are literally needles on the tracks, which could cause a track fire. So at Tremont Avenue, again, there used to be a program when Andy Byford was president. It was a machine called Darth Vader. So we need that machine at the Tremont Avenue station overnight to clean up the needles off the tracks. And especially how we're hoping on April 3rd, the Yankee Stadium station, 161st Street on the BD and 4, we're hoping that there'll be enough transit police to patrol downstairs on the BD line and upstairs on the platform for the 4 train. So again, transit crime in the Bronx, we need more cooperation. We need Vanessa Gibson to advocate for more people in the Bronx. We need the Bronx to be safe again, especially in the transit system. So with that, thank you for letting me speak, and I'll address my Omni concerns at CPOC in an hour.
The next speaker is John Padula, followed by the last speaker, Jason Anthony.
All
right. Good morning, folks. My name is John Padula. I'm an administrator with Educational Vision Services from New York City Public Schools. We are the department that handles all the services for blind and low vision students across our city. We've had an interesting start to the year. I haven't been here for a while because of the 2 snowstorms, and thinking about all the agencies across our city, thinking about things like snow removal. How do we get the left hand to know what the right hand is doing, right? And you think about those snowstorms, everyone was dealing with barriers that they didn't normally have to deal with, right? So are they artificial? Are they real? But how do we communicate better? In life, no matter what you're trying to do, no matter what the issue is, communication is the key. And I'm tired of people just wanting to kick the can. What belongs to the MTA? What belongs to the Department of Transportation? Who's responsible for this? Who's responsible for that? You think about Accessoride. Accessoride's been doing a very good job of late. But then a new taxi authorization form is rolled out, and nobody from the tech department thinks to talk to leadership at Accessoride and say, hey, we're implementing a CAPTCHA system, which, by the way, if you're in tech, WCAG and 504 compliance shouldn't be a new thing to you. You should realize what's going to work and what's not going to work, and CAPTCHAs don't work. And again, the left hand has to be able to speak to the right hand. There shouldn't be any of these surprises happening in 2026. But to reiterate, taxi reimbursements, 120 days is accessible. We really got to get that down to 30 or 60. Even in the dog days of Accessoride, back in the 2005s and 10s, you would get a receipt back in 4 to 6 weeks. And by the way, you weren't limited in those days. You could take a taxi anywhere in the 5 boroughs. It wasn't just in the borough. So my name is John Padula. Thank you very much.
Our final speaker for today will be Jason Anthony.
Good morning, everybody. Jason Anthony, the Transit Guru. Good morning, everybody, especially Q. That it wasn't for him, I won't be doing the advocacy that I always do for over a decade. Let's do some fact checking here, shall we? There was a previous speaker that we won't mention their name for security reasons that mentioned at 161st Street Yankee Stadium, there's no police presence. That person forgot to mention that in that station, Transit District 11 is there. So therefore, there's always police presence there. And obviously, yours truly has been navigating through the system all over the week, even through Eastern Queens. 179th Street, it was one of those stations. That customer service center, Demetrius, I will say little to no presence. I will say that customer service center should be at Jamaica Center. And regarding the Inspector General's report regarding the bathrooms, it should have been discussed in front of the board members, not blasted into the media. Because personally, for me, as a person who uses the system, let's say every day, I have concerns regarding that report. Because not all the bathrooms have the necessary tools like toilet paper, is maintained clean, and maintenance cleans the bathrooms outside the regular hours like 12 noon and 7 p.m. So I want to address this topic in another meeting. That's all for this month.
Thank you for your remarks. That concludes today's public comment session.
Thank you to all our public speakers. I will now entertain a motion to approve the minutes for the February 2026 meeting. Any adjustments, Andrew?
If you have downloaded the book as of this morning, it's been updated with all the corrections in it.
Great, okay. With all the corrections that have resulted as a result of the downloading, can I now take a motion? Well, I now will entertain a motion to accept the February 2026 minutes. Thank you, David. Second. Dan, All those in favor? Abstentions? Approval's great. Thank you. All right, Demetrius, are there any changes to the work plan?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, you want to start us off with the president's report?
Sure thing. So thank you all for joining us today. We've had a busy last couple of weeks, and so wanted to cover a couple of items. I'm going to be fast, but at the same time take some time to make sure we spend time in important areas. One thing that, without question, is important is our employees. This committee is very, very familiar with the challenges that this team dealt with to overcome this past winter. First major snowstorm that we've had in how many years? An extended deep freeze that followed, and then blizzard. So it was especially sweet to celebrate the National Transit Employee Appreciation Day this month on March 18th. Myself and team members, both Bill and Frank, Rachel, we were all out there. We had the pleasure of dealing with, talking to, and expressing our appreciation to our employees for all of the things that they do. I headed to Kingsbridge Depot and 207th Street Yard in Upper Manhattan that morning to see for myself all of the hard work that the team was doing and what they put in behind the scenes to make the magic happen. We had the pleasure also of being joined with the Manhattan Borough President, Brad Hoylman Siegel, and he honored the team in two different ways. One, he honored the men and women of the Kingsbridge Depot for the dedication of providing service to Manhattan and other New York City transits areas, but he also acknowledged and appreciated the work of Miss Sophie Henderson. Now, Miss Henderson has been a member of the transit family since 1967. 1967. Just shy of a 60-year career at New York City Transit, and has been an integral piece of the car equipment team. It's not just a career that you can build with us, but an entire life, 60 years. Ms. Henderson was one of the first individuals when I first got here that came up to me and said, "I work with your dad."
I love it.
It's pretty amazing. Can you imagine a legacy that connects generations? So that's what folks like Ms. Henderson bring to this organization, our long-tenured employees, folks that have been here, still have the dedication, and add value to this organization. Also, thank you to the Borough President for celebrating with our team last week. Customers care about their trains, bus, their paratransit service. We want to make sure that they show up on time and that they get there safely. But that simple concept takes literally thousands of employees to accomplish it. Yes, it's the work of the bus operator, the train conductor, the train operator, the station agent. Those are the folks that you see on a day-to-day basis, the first front-facing employees, and it does mean a lot of work from them. But there are a number of people behind the scenes that get this job done on a daily basis. Our maintenance teams, folks in the depots, car inspectors, our supervisors in the field, folks that people don't see, but they make a huge difference in the service that we provide on a daily trip. All transit employees' efforts keep millions of New Yorkers connected to their families, to friends, to work, to life, to seeing instances where they have care, life-saving care, and much more. How many people can say that their work impacts literally millions? It's hard, often unforgiving, and doesn't always get the recognition that it deserves. But our transit system is what keeps this city alive, and the transit employees keep it breathing. While we should be mindful of this every day, it is important to have at least one day a year where we can take a moment and say thank you to the employees for what they do. I always say that safety and service are the core tenements to what we do around here. There's nothing more important. I was at a depot in the yard last week, and I saw firsthand employees that were on the floor doing the work, supported by their supervisors, colleagues, committed to upholding these two core principles, doing what they were supposed to do. But there's been a lot of talk lately that seemed to call into question that commitment in these two tenements. So if you will, indulge me for a little bit. I'm going to spend some time going through those things. So one question, our team does not allow anything to compromise the dedication to service and safety, period. One of the instances that's been front and present is one-person train operation. First off, legislating details of New York City Transit's daily operation of its trains and stations is unwise generally. Here, it will immediately increase costs and prevent New York City Transit from safely taking advantage of new technology that could save the public millions of dollars. One-person train operation, or OPTO as we'll refer to it, was introduced through collective bargaining nearly 30 years ago. 30 years ago, and it has been expanded upon since. We've been safely operating OPTO in accordance with the terms of the agreement with the union, 1994, since that point. We operated across 7 routes. The overnight between Eastchester and Dyer, 42nd Street Shuttle. We have Euclid Avenue Lefferts, the overnight shuttle, the G line on weekends, the M line on weekends, the Franklin Avenue shuttle, and the Rock Park shuttle. We estimate that OPTO on these routes saves $9 million annually. That's money that's reinvested back into employees, that's reinvested back into service. It has become the industry standard that high-performing organizations, high-performing transportation networks are implementing it. It is their operating strategy. This is not an area that New York needs to take steps backwards in. Not an area that New York needs to be last. Next, let's talk about the bus radio system. I'll start by reminding folks here that we're working to centralize all of our bus service through our bus command center. But much like how we already successfully run it on the transit side in our operations control center, centralizing service at the BCC allows for us to have access to much more information that ultimately benefits our riders and employees. It places the folks who manage your day-to-day service right next to the individuals who manage incidents. That information we can utilize from the BCC allows us to access much more information. It allows the supervisors that are positioned properly to be able to respond to incidents like this past storm, being able to communicate in ways that we have not communicated in the past. In 2016, we approved the contract to upgrade the communications system at the bus command center. And as part of this upgrade, buses were equipped with devices that connect the operator to the BCC using a data network. In the event these devices lose access to the internet, bus operators still have access to regular voice radio service. The BCC and the bus operator can always communicate with each other during this fallback mode. We've had multiple meetings with the union about this and have been working with the venue on how to address any issues that may arise. Look, introducing new technology to a 100-year-old operating system across the largest bus network and the most densely populated city in the U.S. will have its challenges. But in this case, there has been no detriment to safety. And we're committed to making sure that all of our operators and our customers get to where they need to safely. Next, I want to address the claims that were made about the safety and integrity of the buses that we operate, specifically out of the Gun Hill Road Depot. Buses with known safety defects are not allowed to enter service, period. Buses with known safety defects are not allowed to enter service, period. We have a maintenance policy and procedure that complies with industry-wide safety standards. Operating depots are required to follow established processes and procedures, mandating that all of their work orders, their tasks, captured and associated labor costs, they all have to be maintained. There are plenty of reasons why a work order would be closed with no labor costs. So let's give you an example. Imagine a work order is generated for an issue of a destination sign on a new bus. Destination sign is not working. The vendor would correct the issue under warranty, and then the bus would be returned to service. That would be closed and no work hours attached. Doesn't mean anything was done incorrectly, just shows that there was a process, it was noted, addressed appropriately, and closed out. Management has continued to increase controls, oversight, and regular audits to ensure we have a smooth process. We've also updated our system so that any work order closed without labor hours must be accompanied by a comment that must be typed in before the order can be closed. And claims were made that brake issues with buses were allowed to leave the depots. To clarify what was incorrectly stated as fact, all involved buses were inspected out of an abundance of caution, and not a single one was found to be on the road when it shouldn't have been. Not a single bus reported was found to be on the road that should not have been. To get even more in the weeds, the vast majority of our buses fleet is equipped with the technology that monitors the brake wear and continuously provides data through our bus diagnostic systems. Systems that literally monitor the brake wear on the bus. That tech has no impact on the brake's functionality. Buses not equipped with the tech are visually inspected, and if for some reason we are not confident in the accuracy of what's being reported, there is an additional inspection that rounds out your inspections. So, look, we take safety extremely seriously on our bus fleet, for both our customers and for our employees. Frankly, assertions to the contrary don't just point to the MTA or to management, but the thousands of men and women who daily operate these buses, who report the issues that they are finding, to the thousands of mechanics who dedicate their lives. We talked about Sophie Henderson just a few moments ago on the car side, but to the thousands of mechanics who dedicate their work to putting out safe buses, and the hundreds of supervisors who work tirelessly to supervise their work. There is a huge organization of folks that are dedicated to putting buses out on the road safely, and they do it every day. And so, frankly, it's offensive to comment on the fact that it's not being done as it should be by certain officials who are said to represent them. These investments we've made aren't limited to just the fleet. That's why the 2025 to 2029 capital plan has historic investments in the state of good repair, work that is critical. We do care about the state of our facilities. Not only is it critical ensuring the safety of our workforce, but it is integral to our ability to be able to provide service. You have to have good facilities in order to get the buses out. That's why we're investing in upgrading conditions at 6 of our New York City Transit bus depots, plus the Bathgate Shop and Zuriga Central Maintenance Facility. Now, on to the discussion about express bus service on Staten Island. Since 2018, New York City Transit has invested about $15 million in bus service in Staten Island, and has increased scheduled service by 11%. And the network redesign and express bus service increased bus speeds by 16%. Staten Island is, without question, getting the love. I care deeply about the service we're providing to Staten Islanders, and over the summer, we didn't like what we were seeing. we proactively started to take steps to address it. And we implemented changes that has improved service for riders. And this bore out in the latest customer count survey, where Staten Island bus riders were saying they saw that service had improved and they were appreciative. In fact, as part of the Transit Employee Appreciation Day, the social media team solicited stories about MTA from customers. And many of Staten Island residents talked about how appreciative they were for the express bus riders, the express bus operators, and the work that they do. But I have to acknowledge that we've recently faced some challenges in providing great express bus service over the past few weeks. Remember, Staten Island was one of the hardest hit during the last month's blizzard. We've also found traffic conditions to have presented some challenges. We're working with our law enforcement partners and our colleagues at Bridges and Tunnels and C&D to find ways to relieve traffic conditions and get our buses moving faster. So we remain committed to continuing to improve how we can get Staten Island bus riders where they need to be safely and efficiently. Staten Islanders also have this to look forward to. By mid-2026, 40% of the Staten Island bus fleet will have been replaced. 40% will have been replaced. Now, before I turn it over to the departments, I want to take a quick comment to talk a little bit about KPIs, our key performance indicators. Last month, there was a lot of attention on our KPIs and how we were reporting them. I will remind everyone that we run service every day based on a schedule. When the regular service is suspended, as it is during emergency conditions, we don't count those days because there is no schedule. But that doesn't give us any excuse. We still ran service during a blizzard. Think back to the photos of the storm. Think back to the videos, any news clips you remember. Just think back for a half a second. If you remember in the background, the only vehicle that you would see on a city street was a bus or a paratransit vehicle. We put out service for those who needed us most under some of the most difficult circumstances to operate. On top of the accumulation, February was also an unusually challenging month because of the cold and the freeze. You'll see in these department reports, we aren't hiding anything. There's no question we are showing our cards. We're being completely transparent. Our numbers definitely took a hit while we were fighting Old Man Winter. We accept that. But what speaks volumes is we were out there fighting with Old Man Winter. And as a result, New York takes that win. So with that, I will turn it over to Bill. We'll talk about subways.
Great, thank you, Demetrius. I just want to think back to where we were in February. We had just come off the major winter storm at the end of January, and we entered a deep freeze. So there was no time for the snow to melt, and our teams were working through those conditions in our yards and our facilities where there was still snow buildup, as well as other problems that came from the bitter cold that we had. We had many cases where pipes were freezing in buildings at street level above us, which was causing flooding and then icing. So we had ice buildups in the subway tunnels like we've never seen before. And that created a very challenging situation for our teams. And then as we went through February, we started to get that melt and then very quickly went into the blizzard. And for the month overall of February, we had 79% on-time performance. And I'm never going to say that I'm happy with 79%, but I do want to recognize the incredible work of the Subways team to get through those challenges at the beginning of the month and then keep service running through the blizzard. We served over 1 million riders during the blizzard. which is incredible to think about. That's more than any other subway system in the country carries. And those were people who had to get where they were going. They were nurses, doctors, home health aides, public servants who needed to get places, and we were their only option. So I'm very, very proud of the team for being able to deliver service through those conditions. Also want to recognize Transit Employee Appreciation Day. I'm very fortunate to lead a team that has so much depth of experience. Ms. Henderson is an example of someone who's been here nearly 6 decades, but I have many people on my team that have been here 3, 4 decades. One of them I'd like to congratulate on his retirement. Lou Landfair is leaving us this week after 39 years. He led our station maintenance team and particularly focused on the Revive program in our stations and work on our employee facilities. In fact, this morning he was showing off the employee facility that he renovated when we surprised him with a plaque to congratulate him. So very fortunate to have a very experienced, very dedicated team. Want to thank all of them as we did last week. And do want to say that coming out of the February challenges, we are seeing performance improve. We saw it improve steadily through February. In March, we're back above 80% again, and I'm looking forward to seeing those numbers continue to improve as the weather improves. With that, I'll turn it over to Frank for the buses report.
Thanks, Bill. Good morning. The past couple of months have been challenging, to say the least, for the Department of Buses. The January snowstorm hit us pretty hard, and the weeks that followed in February with the continuous freeze had significant impact on our service. With the lack of melting weeks after the storm, it continued to affect our operation. I mean, out on the streets, you've seen if, 2-lane roads converted into 1 lane, it's really a challenge for buses to navigate through that. So, some areas seen as much as 2 feet of snow, which was really difficult. There were hardly any other vehicles on the road, but yet the buses continued to move, which was really significant. And to the President's point, if you watch in the news, there was a good chance that you've seen a bus passing by in the background. I was out there during both storms, and I seen firsthand that the people that were in the bus stops, people that were on the buses that really rely on our service, and we were getting them where they need to go, which was critical. The buses team, they really kept service running through it all, and I want to thank them for an exceptional job that they did. Their work really showed how strong this system is and how dedicated our frontline team are. Because of this, to that point, the post-storm conditions, February 23rd and 24th were excluded from the service performance. Service delivery was at 88.8, down 6.3 percentage points from January of 26 and down 4.8 percentage points from February 25. The year-over-year stands at 91.8. The customer journey time was at 58.7, down 13.4 percentage points month over month and down 11.4 percentage points year-over-year, with the year-to-date at 65, just showing how significant the snow impacted our operation. Bus speeds are at 8 miles per hour, down 4.8% from the prior month and down 3.6% from last month. Year-over-year remains at 8.1. But now we're starting to see a little bit of a break in the weather, and we are starting to see the service performance start to bounce back a bit. And that concludes the update for buses. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Frank. Not to belabor the point, but Paratransit was certainly not immune from the challenges we saw this winter and that Frank just described, particularly on the surface transportation side. So for Paratransit, we were impacted, of course, by Winter Storm Fern, the long, deep freeze that followed, and not just the constrained street conditions, but, of course, the piles of snow that we all experienced on the sidewalks and in the curb cuts as well. So for Paratransit, particularly in these challenging conditions, our priority, as always, remained on the safe transportation of all of our customers. As a result of the lasting impacts of Winter Storm Fern, we similarly did see impacts on our on-time performance, but I'm really proud of the work that our team did throughout the month of February as well to deliver 93% of our weekday trips and 97% of our weekend trips within the 30-minute on-time performance window, only marginal declines from the prior month, even with nearly 3 weeks out of the month having some impact from either Winter Storm Fern or the end-of-month blizzard. We also saw an increase of ridership as compared to February of 2025, even with the winter storm conditions, delivering nearly 800,000 trips throughout the month. We're working every day now to work through the spring and serve our continued growing ridership. We also saw a ridership record in February with over 50,000 scheduled trips on Wednesday, February 11th. So all in all, certainly challenging conditions throughout the month. As I stated, we remain focused on safe transportation of all of our customers, even when that means we have to slow down for road conditions and sidewalk conditions. And we look forward to delivering strong performance throughout the spring. And that concludes the Paratransit update.
All right, thank you, Rachel. Just a quick recap of the ridership here. But first, Chair, I like to say, as a Chicago guy, you guys really tested my resolve this winter. I thought I was, but just a quick recap. Obviously, that was the significant severe weather conditions had a major impact on the ridership for February. The Monday following Winter Storm Hernando, of course, brought 20 inches of snow. We saw a reduction in subway ridership by almost 22% compared to previous Mondays so far this winter season. Buses was even more heavily impacted with over 17% of the normal ridership that was recorded. As a result, the average weekday subway ridership showed a year-over-year decline of 0.4% with 3.89 million riders compared to 3.91 million in 2025. However, if you look at only at the midweekdays, which escaped the worst of the weather in the last blizzard, ridership rose 5.6% versus 2025 with 4.17 million riders on the subway. Saturday also saw good weather with 2.69 million and an 8.9% rise from the previous year. The average weekday paid ridership on bus saw a 17% decline from 2025. As with subway, good weather midweek days saw a less drastic impact decline of 9.9%. Paratransit, as Rachel mentioned, ridership averages 46,000 on weekdays and 27,796 on weekends. However, during the February 22nd and 23rd snowstorm and associated travel restrictions, riders avoided non-central travel and the daily total dropped dramatically to 4,000 riders. Despite the weather conditions, average daily ridership in February was higher than January, including a record of over 50,000 scheduled trips on Paratransit for February 11. February 2026 ridership was also 2.3% above February 2025, consistent with the long-term upward trajectory in ridership. And Madam Chair, that concludes the ridership update. I'll turn it back over to you for a presentation by Frank Farrell. Buses.
We're good? Oh, Frank, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Good morning again. All right, let's first start by taking a look at some of the things that we accomplished in 2025. The successful implementation of congestion pricing and the launch of the Queens Network bus redesign have already improved bus speeds and overall performance across the system. The Queens Bus Network redesign introduced new rush service on 25 routes, helping riders get to subway connections, other bus routes, and major job centers faster and more reliably. We also introduced 11 new routes, creating stronger, more direct connections across the borough. We continued expanding our ACE program, adding 20 additional routes last year. That brings us up to 54 total routes last year and 58 as of today. In 2025, we delivered 161 new buses into service. These buses include upgraded technology and enhanced accessibility features, improving both the rider experience and operational efficiency. And in close partnership with New York City Department of Transportation, we made critical street improvements. 769 new intersections received transit signal priority, 9.6 miles of new and upgraded bus lanes in addition to the 22.5 miles of protected bus lanes. These milestones reflect meaningful progress, not just in planning, but in delivering, and they are directly improving service for our riders every day. So let's take a look at 2026. As we look ahead at 2026, our focus shifts from implementation to optimization, strengthening how we manage service, improve performance, prioritize safety, improve maintenance practices, and focus on customer service. 2026 is about delivering a world-class bus system that is faster, safer, and more reliable, and more customer-focused that our riders expect and deserve. Reimagining service management. We are reimagining service management, and starts with centralization. We've been talking a lot about this. The bus command center will be the heart of our operation so that all information flows through one central hub. This creates a single source of truth for the Department of Buses. It streamlines communication between divisions and leadership, reduces delays in decision-making, and strengthens our real-time response. We are also reorganizing staff and redefining leadership roles, both at the BCC and in road operations. This is about improving operational efficiencies, optimizing leadership alignment, and strengthening strategic coordination. It also creates a clear platform for mentoring and developing the next generation of buses leadership. Managers will provide structured service management oversight, conduct systematic performance reviews, and drive sustained improvements in key performance indicators, both in the command center and in the field. Let me be clear. Every employee, whether in the field or in the bus commander, will be aligned around one goal, and that is the quality of our service. We are strengthening dispatcher training with formal service management handbooks and clearly defining expectations. Performance will be measured, accountability will be consistent. We are also leaning into data. Every decision we make should be guided by data. Identifying the top causes of delays, conducting quarterly service reviews, improving incident response, and enhancing customer communication. This is about oversight, it's about accountability, and ultimately, it's about delivering a high quality of service to our customers. The BCC is not just an operations center, it's the operation backbone of our department. We will continue to improve performance and deliver excellent service by strengthening how we manage reliability, accountability, and results. We now have 6 divisions in depot operations, creating clear structure, stronger oversight, and better alignment across the system. And this is not the end of the evolution. More improvements are coming. We are focused on tracking and improving availability. Reliability begins with available buses and available operator. That means closely monitoring attendance and ensuring management is reinforcing expectations, accountability at every level. We are not just tracking numbers, we are managing performance. We will continue the automated camera enforcement ACE rollout with clear focus on enabling bus service to run faster, safer, more reliable, and accessible. Bus routes equipped with automated enforcement on average have increased speeds, fewer collisions, and a reduction in emissions. We recently activated 4 more ACE routes, the Q17, the Q27, which I also would like to point out, I appreciate the improvements to the Q27, as that's the bus I took to high school almost every day, so I'm glad to see improvements on the 27 coming. I'm sure the students are as well. And just last week, we rolled out the Q60 and the B12, bringing us to 58 routes across all 5 boroughs, benefiting from over 1 million riders daily. When combined with dedicated bus lanes and street upgrades, ACE has helped improve bus speeds across entire corridors, with some segments seeing gains of nearly 30%, while also reducing collisions, lane blockage, and bus stop obstructions, ultimately improving overall customer journey time reliability. We continue to work closely with our partners in New York City Department of Transportation to expand dedicated bus lanes and busways that reduce traffic interference, as well as deploy advanced signal technology and minimize delays at intersections. Safety is not negotiable. We will ensure employee and customer safety by investing in technology, strengthening training standards, and increasing enforcement visibility. We are continuing to invest in systems that actively prevent collisions and protect both operators and customers. That includes piloting our collision avoidance systems, deploying the intelligent turning warning systems, advancing e-mirrors, and piloting new brake technology and evolution. But technology alone is not enough. It doesn't solve the problem. We are strengthening Vision Zero training, improving coordination across divisions, reinforcing accountability. Safety and training teams are increasing targeting and outreach at high-risk locations to ensure we are proactive instead of being reactive. We are also improving training standards overall. Expectations must be clear from day one and reinforced throughout an employee's entire career. Expanding fully enclosed cabs is another step in protecting operators because employee safety is a top priority. We are also expanding the reach of fair enforcement resources, including our Eagle teams to support a safer environment on board our buses. Safety includes ensuring fair compliance, reducing onboard conflicts, and protecting our operators. Safety is not just about collisions. It is about environment, it is about infrastructure, it is about leadership responsiveness. And at the end of the day, safety is fundamental to operating a world-class bus system. Improving maintenance practice is about one thing: standards. We are strengthening daily coordination between operations and maintenance. Service reliability depends on alignment. That means constant communication, shared visibility, and rapid issue resolutions. At the same time, we are continuing to scale up our depot quality control policy. Every depot must operate under the same high standards, a consistent system-wide expectation for quality. We will also strengthen maintenance by reinforcing quality assurance audits with clear documented corrective action plans. This is about accountability. Finally, we must promote employee recognition. Standards improve when pride improves. When teams know excellence is seen, measured, and celebrated, standards rise. We want a culture where professional pride drives performance, where employees want their depot to be the benchmark, not the exception. Improving maintenance practice is not just about working hard, it's about working efficient with clear standards and with immediate corrective action when we fall short. For our riders, the bus experience, it's personal. It's the opportunity they see, it's the operator they see, it's the condition of the bus, it's the reliability of the trip, and it's the clarity of the real-time information that we provide. We will enhance our focus on customer service by improving lift reliability for customers that use wheelchairs through updated training, maintenance protocols. Accessibility is not a feature. It is a fundamental expectation. Our bus system is fully accessible. When the lifts or the ramps fail, we fail the customer. That is unacceptable. We are also focusing more deliberately on the overall customer experience, delivering buses that are clean, safe, and welcoming. Cleanliness and safety send a message about pride and professionalism. We are also improving how we communicate with customers. We are updating the MTA bus time interface to make it more user-friendly. The new version actually adds favorites. This was one of the most requested features that our customers were looking for, so customers can quickly access the routes that they use most. It creates a uniform look and feel between mobile and desktop platforms, reduces clutter, and improves usability. We are also integrating detour management information directly into our system. That means clearer, more consistent communication during disruptions. Service alerts and maps will align. Travel times can be adjusted to reflect real conditions. Stop locations and temporary suspensions during construction will be accurately displayed. This is something we want to bring to customers so they know exactly what's going on and how their trip is going to be experienced. And importantly, this information can pass through with downstream systems and third-party apps, ensuring customers receive consistent, reliable information wherever they access it. We are also supporting New York DOT's expansion of real-time passenger information because better street-level information complements what we provide digitally. If we deliver on those expectations consistently, we improve not just satisfaction, but confidence in our entire system. We remain committed to delivering a world-class bus service, one that is safe, reliable, and responsive to the needs of every rider. By investing in our people, modernizing our tools, and continuous improvements to our operation, we ensure that our customer experience the highest level of service they deserve every time they board our bus. Thank you.
So thank you, Bill, Frank, Rachel, and Bernard, not just for everything you do every day, but especially through the months of January and February, which were very difficult. You got us through the tough times, and we thank you for it. We have some questions. Andrew and then Dan.
Thanks. Thank you for that report, Frank. You may be aware that virtually every other day I'm reporting a bus with an incorrect destination sign because that affects transfers and all of that. So perhaps it would be a great idea to remind bus operators when they start their journey, check your engines, check your mirrors, and check your signs. Because there's an awful lot of incorrect signs on buses these days.
Yes, and I know you sent me some stuff, and it's one of the things that we're looking at, where we know when, an operator starts their trip, it's critical that they log in correctly, they got the right information, reduce some of the buses that don't show up on the app. So it's one of the things we are focused on and looking to make improvements.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Dan?
Thank you. This is a question for either Demetrius or Frank or both. On the subject of the bus command, talking to the bus operator, can you paint a little bit of a picture for us as to how that would be used on a routine basis, like a normal route on a normal day? Is it constant? Is it as needed? What sorts of things are going back and forth there? Give us a sense.
Yes, so I mean, if I'm a bus operator and I'm operating down the line, right, if I need to speak to, the bus command center, I would pull over, we have our interface that's on the bus, and they would request to talk to a dispatcher that's sitting inside of the bus command center. And then the bus command center would see the call and then start communication with our bus operator.
But for what? I guess that's what I'm really asking is, why? What would present the need to do it? What's the most common need?
So there could be, numerous. If there's a disturbance in traffic, all of a sudden there's an extreme amount of traffic, they may call, let them know if there's some kind of activity where they may need to be detoured, or if a bus operator, has to take a comfort and they want to notify the BCC, something of that nature. So it could really, anything like that. However, we do have a feature as well. If there's an emergency, they would hit, like an emergency report, like priority to talk if there was something that, something going on the bus or something.
So generally in managing service, a bus operator has their schedule, they know their routes, they've picked the routes, so they're usually pretty good with what they need to do. But based upon any day, there could be an incident, or we call them incidents, that arise that a bus operator has to make communication with the control center. It could be a sick customer on the bus. It could be, like Frank mentioned, it could be that you have to reroute around the specific locations. Generally, the control center will then steer a supervisor out to the location to take a look at it, make sure that the route is safe, to do a reroute. But there is, I wouldn't say every bus operator speaks to the control center every day. It is definitely based upon incident, but it's something that they do on a common basis.
Those were examples of the operator reaching out to the command center. Mm-hmm. How about the reverse? In what circumstances would the bus operator hear from the command center with either instructions or advice or anything of that nature?
So this is an interesting one because, we talked a lot about service and incident management. In the control center, the history is it had always handled incidents. So when a person has a sick person on the bus, there's a police incident that's going on, the control center takes that call, they arrange for support to come and to respond to that location. That they handled incidents. Now we are moving the service management from the field to the control center. So now sitting right next to the person that's managing the incidents will be a supervisor that's saying, okay, the incident just happened here, there's a collision that's at street level, we're gonna reroute all buses to all of these different locations, we're gonna be rerouting them on the streets here, we're gonna send a supervisor out to take a look at a location, but you're right there, and you're managing service, not just based upon a street corner, which is currently what they do is they manage service at that corner, but you'll be managing for the route. So the communications we expect will actually increase because you will be looking at service and saying, I have a gap, 3 gaps in service that I need to satisfy for. I have 2 buses that are bunched up at that location that I need to manage for. So we do anticipate that communication between the control center and the field to be increasing based upon the way we're strategizing our operations.
Okay, last question for me. Frank, you had mentioned that there's a way to prioritize your call over other calls. Does that mean that there's not an immediate response? Like if I'm a bus operator and it's not an emergency, but it's just I'm hitting traffic or something that I want to communicate to the command center, do you have to wait, or is it something where you hit the button and you immediately get a response from the command center?
You're referring to the priority?
Yeah, because you noted there's priority calls.
The priority would be the priority, like that call would be taken first. But if a particular Dispatcher may have, a couple of calls that come in at the same time. They would take the calls accordingly. But again, if there is a priority, they would take that immediately.
I'm really asking if bus drivers need to wait for a response on the normal course sorts of communications. That's really what I'm asking.
So, I mean, they could wait, but, we monitor that as well, so to reduce the wait time.
Like what would be an average wait time for a bus driver in a non-emergency situation?
I don't have the numbers in front of me. I'd have to get back to you with what the average number would be. But it's again, something that we, typically would monitor inside the BCC.
I'll just comment on one thing. On the rail side, our dispatchers work hand in hand. If you and I are working as partners, you're overloaded, I'm taking your work, right? We are supporting each other to make sure that the mission of providing great services is done, regardless. I'd say that for the bus side, it is similar, but there are more delineations in the work that individuals have. So we are looking right now to see how we can improve the work that folks are accounted for. So right now, a dispatcher is assigned to a specific location. Even though you're in a control center, you're managing routes out of a specific location. But there are so many opportunities that we can expand upon our experience and expand upon the experience of our customers by giving people the ability to be able to support, no matter where you're working in the control center, that customer service.
Okay, I don't mean to leave the impression that I have any reason to believe that bus drivers are waiting at all. I'm really just curious to know whether it's a 30-second or a 2-minute. I have no sense of this at all. So if you can come back to me, I'd be interested, but it's really just out of my own interest. Okay, thank you.
Melva, sorry.
That's okay. Yes. So as someone who was in the command center and was on one of those communication boxes, it was immediate response, although the person was across the room looking at me as I was on the box, so they had to respond to me. But it was a lot of fun. So I have a question about the financial and ridership report that was in the materials. I'm putting on my Neil hat for a minute and looking at the numbers, and you guys gave a really clear rationale and some context around why ridership was down in February because of the snow, but also expenses were down, it looks like, because of manpower, right? So and also in the report, it also showed that because of that, overtime was up. So I'm really interested in how you guys are thinking about how to mitigate that so that long-term expenses don't really increase because of manpower shortages and overtime increases if the fare box isn't bringing in the revenue.
Want to use mine?
Let's see. There we go. Look at that. So the numbers themselves for overtime are not as simple as what they would seem at a glance. Because of the storm, you have a population of people who may not necessarily have the easiest commute to get to work, right? So if there's a train operator or a conductor or a bus operator or a mechanic or whatever, you will have a reduction in what's actual headcount coming to work. But then at the same time, you have a number of people who we held on. So operators of the same classes, we were holding them on to keep them here 24/7. They stayed through the storms. We gave them rest on property, and then they were able to be right there to take that bus out, take that train out, because they stayed on property. So the numbers, and this storm was unique in that we were sending resources from all over the place, and it continued over a long period of time. So even after we started resuming service, a week later, we still were dealing with challenges tied to the storm. So the overtime itself is not a good indicator of performance for these last 2 months. It's one of the things that we are challenged with. We've done a great job of looking at all of the specific instances and then documenting each of the expenses that are tied to overtime. So every person that stayed for 8 hours, it is documented. It gets reviewed and checked and audited. but it's really difficult to use that as the barometer for success for these last 2 months.
So it doesn't seem like it's a long-term concern that you monitor it. And this was a special circumstance, and when there's emergencies like that, you'll see the head count go down, overtime going up, but there's a way to mitigate so that it evens out.
Right, and the overtime, I have to note, overtime expenses over the last year, the team has done an amazing job of dropping and maintaining a very low amount of overtime. This storm was an anomaly.
Any other questions? If not, we move on to Chief Keith Shine. Thank you, Chief.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Chief. I'm Chief Steve Moriel, the XO Transit Bureau. That's all right. Good morning, Chair Motaltis, President Critchlow, and members of the board. First off, I'd like to wish you a belated Happy National Transit Employee Appreciation Day. We see firsthand the hard work and dedication it takes to keep the transit network running around the clock, and we'd like to recognize your workforce, not just on Employee Appreciation Day, but every day for keeping the city moving, all while being a steadfast partner to us at the NYPD. In front of you are the transit crime figures for the month of February. Last month, the subway system saw 191 crimes, reflecting a 17.9% increase, 191 versus 162 the previous year compared to the previous February. This increase was driven primarily by an increase of robberies and, to a lesser extent, felony assaults. In response, we adapted our deployment to address those concerning upticks. I'm pleased to report that we've seen some recent positive results. Over the past 28-day period, as of March 15th, we've seen a percentage change in robberies now from the increase of 52% seen in February to 6.9% increase. Even more encouraging, the percentage of change of felony assaults reversed from an increase of 15.9% in February to a decrease of 19.6%. Furthermore, looking at the latest year-to-date period as of March 15th, there's been a couple of stats worth noting. First, the number of unprovoked incidents, which are crimes committed against someone without any prior interaction and tend to spark deep concern amongst our ridership, has dropped by over 27% from 104 this year compared to 144 last year. And second, the NYPD has removed 17 firearms from the subway system this year. This was predominantly through the enforcement of quiet life violations that weigh so heavily on our riders' minds. This reflects a 70% increase of firearms removed from 17 this year compared to 10 last year, and speaks to continued proactive work of NYPD officers to bring about a safer subway system. We remain committed to our mission of public safety for all who depend on New York City subway, and we'll continue to assess or adapt our strategies to prevent and combat crime within the system. That concludes my remarks, and I'll gladly take any questions or comments you may have.
Thank you, Chief, and I apologize for getting your name wrong.
That's all right.
Any questions? Just a comment. I'm glad that we're moving in the right direction and we continue that upward trend. We don't have any procurements, right? So with that, I think we've reached our end of the Transit Committee meeting this month. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Second? Okay, thank you.